All right, for project 4, we're doing what's called printmaking, okay? And think of printmaking like, as in we're making a giant stamp, okay? It says your objective is to make a 6x9 collagraph out of found materials, which I've included most of everything you're gonna need in your packet, and print at least 3 times with tempera paint. A collagraph is like a 3D collage made from cardboard, string, and other materials. Paint is applied to the surface and then pressed onto paper, making a stamp-like design. Here are a few examples. Okay, so the artist that we like to talk about whenever I introduce printmaking is Andy Warhol. Andy Warhol was an artist who he's around for a very long time, artistically anyway. He did what was called pop art, okay? And Andy Warhol, down here it says, a commercial artist born in Pittsburgh, PA, who made a name for himself making prints. He used the idea of reinventing everyday objects into high art, meaning fine art or art that's sold for thousands and thousands of dollars, using printmaking processes. He is known as the king of pop art. Later in his career, he shifted his focus to include portraits of famous people and ordinary objects. Okay, so this is an example of one of his earlier pieces where he took everyday objects that people see all the time and turned it into actual art pieces. And one of his things that he liked to do was repeat, repeat, repeat. And that's kind of what printmaking is all about. You make one thing and you print it multiple times. You can print it in the same color over and over again, or you can use different colors. So here are some examples of his work. Okay. All right, so the vocabulary for this is printmaking, the art of making artwork that will print on paper multiple times when ink or paint is applied to it, similar to a stamp. There are a few different types of printmaking techniques. There is what's called relief printing. Now, if you were in the building, we would be doing traditional relief printing on what's called linoleum. The problem with that is I can't send home some of those supplies that are involved in that because they're kind of sharp and heavy and all this. So a collagraph is the next best thing, okay? But relief print is when you take a surface and you carve down into that surface. What happens is when you go to ink it or apply ink to it, ink only is applied to the area that is left behind from the carving method. So if you carve down into the surface, the only thing that's going to get ink at this point is what's still sticking up. Okay. I like to think of a relief print as your thumb print. If I were to get ink on my thumb and then press that onto paper, it's the ridges of your thumb that stick up that are going to get the ink, and that's what's going to print on paper. Okay. All right, so a collagraph, just like what we talked about earlier, found objects placed on a piece of cardboard, ink is applied, and then it's printed on a piece of paper. Okay. Silkscreen is a process in which you have a stencil and you force ink through the stencil to make a design on something. Silkscreen is a method that is used to make graphic tees. And I don't know if you can see that in this picture, but that's what they're making back here. They're making print after print after print after print on a graphic tee, or of a graphic on a t-shirt. Etching, that one's a little different. You scrape into a metal plate and then you put that etching into an acid bath and it creates an acid print on a piece of paper. Pop art is a movement of the 60s that featured ordinary subject matter as the art. Collagraph is a basic method of printing using cardboard with collage materials glued onto to form a relief surface with a variety of textures. If you remember back in the picture that we were talking about linoleum, this little guy right here is the next vocabulary term. It is called a brayer. And what a brayer is a small hand roller. So it looks like a roller with a handle on it. And it's used for applying ink to a print. Okay, you guys are going to use a paintbrush, but if you were printmaking in the classroom, we would be using a brayer, which is why I thought it was kind of important to use that term. And a monoprint is one copy or print. So if I made my print and I printed it on one piece of paper and I only printed one, that would be known as a monoprint. All right. So the next section is, once you've printed things, there is a certain way that you're supposed to sign your prints properly, okay? Each time you make a print of your collagraph, you must sign it properly. This is part of the grade for the assignment, but it's also standard printmaking practice. As you move through your prints, number them on the back as you go. So you just print number 1, print number 2, okay? Print number 3. You just print and number the back, all right? When you are done and they're dry, then you're going to flip them over and label them on the front bottom edge as follows. So it looks just like this. Like if this is your print here, and this is kind of like the border around your print, you would sign and label your print right under the picture at the very bottom edge of the paper, okay? It says the numbers on the left here, this little fraction looking thing, the numbers to the left are known as an addition number, okay? The addition is the number print, or the number you put on the back as you were going along, over the number of prints made all together, written like a fraction. So if it was the second print you did, and you did 3 total prints, it would be 2 over 3, okay? The second thing you'll see right here is the title, okay? And all that means is it says the title goes in the middle. This is whatever you want to call it, but capitalized in quotations and put right in the center. So you could call it sunshine, you could call it your name, you could call it number 1, whatever. Whatever you would like to call it. But if you have trouble coming up with a title, you can always call it untitled, which makes it very mysterious. Last thing right here in the bottom right corner, you're just going to sign it. You're going to put your signature and you're going to sign it as if you're signing your name on somebody's birthday card. First and last name, please. Okay. All right, so the supplies that you'll need for this project, you'll have a 6x9 piece of cardboard in your bag. You'll have a foamy sheet, so it'll be like a sheet of foam, like that little kid stuff called foamies, all right? You'll have a chunk of yarn, you'll have a pipe cleaner, you'll have cardboard scraps, you'll have black tempera paint in your pack, you'll have 4 sheets of 9x12 construction paper. You're gonna need glue, you'll need scissors, you'll need a water cup, maybe some paper towels to clean up, a paper plate, to possibly, mix paint on, lay your brush on, just kind of, this is more for cleanup practices. And you'll need paintbrushes. All right, number 1, plan out your collagraph on a piece of copy paper or in your sketchbook. So just kind of like look at the materials you have and go, what am I gonna make with these things, okay? You need to make, a plan for what's going to go where, what this picture is going to be that I make. Understand that anything that you make on your print, when printed on paper, will come out the exact opposite as what you intended. So if you write the word love, for example, it'll come out backwards. All right, so you have to, if you're doing any words on this, which I'm telling you to avoid because you will have an issue, if you're doing any words on this, understand they will be reversed and you won't be able to read them. So if you're planning on doing something that directions are important, like it's pointing in a certain direction, or you want this item facing to one way, it's important that you draw it the way that you don't want it to be so that then when it prints, it will print correctly, okay? So once you have your plan made out, and once you put your name on that because you're gonna photograph that later on, okay? Because that's gonna be part of the project. Number 2, assemble your collagraph. There's a video here of me showing you how to do that. You're gonna cut, arrange, glue down the pieces, and then let it dry. Step number 3 says lay down some newspaper or paper towels on your workspace. Just cover your workspace with something because this paint will transfer and I want to make sure that you keep your area clean. Using the black tempera paint that's in your supply bag, you're going to paint the surface of your collagraph. Now, I'm not super concerned with whether or not that paint gets into the recessed areas. You need to make sure that everything that is sticking up that you want to be part of this print to have black paint on it, okay? And you're gonna see me do this in the next video. Before the paint dries, place that piece of 9x12 construction paper on the wet paint and gently press the paper onto the surface. Then take your pencil and put a number on the back. What number print is that? Is that your first one? Is that your second one? And you're going to peel it back gently to reveal your print and then put it somewhere to let it dry, okay? Use steps 4 through 6 2 more times. You'll be turning in 3 prints altogether, okay? Sign and label your prints with edition, title, and signature once everything is dry, and let the prints dry completely and fill out a critique sheet while you're doing that. Grading. I am grading this out of 100 points. Your collagraph plans are worth 10 points. So that planning phase, step number 1, I'm going to be giving you 10 points for that. The collagraph itself, so the cardboard that you actually glued stuff to, is going to be worth 20 points. The 3 prints you made with that is going to be worth 20 points. Signing all 3 prints properly is going to be worth 20 points. Craftsmanship, 10 points. Creativity, 10 points. And your critique is 10 points. For submitting your work, you're going to put your name on the collagraph, plans, and photograph it. Number 2, photograph your cardboard collagraph itself. Number 3, photograph all 3 prints side by side by side in one picture. Okay, that just makes it easier for me to grade them because I want to see the progression of how they came out. Number 4, complete a critique sheet. You can either write out your answers on a piece of lined paper and photograph it, use Cami to complete it, or type up your answers in Google Docs and then upload that. Number 5 says upload your critique, your planning photo, your collagraph photo, so your cardboard plate, and then your 3 prints. Okay, so that's 4 pictures altogether to project number 4 in Google Classroom.